Now, the Electoral Commission chairperson, Jean Mensa, is denying reports that the EC is planning to create 25 new constituencies. Speaking outside Parliament, she said the issue is not even on the agenda.
Was there an incident at an IPAC meeting with the General Secretary for the NDC, Asiedu Nketia, was this public?
I'm not aware of any such incident.
There was no any incident between yourself and Asiedu Nketia?
I am not aware of any such incident.
Is it a made-up story or is it out there?
Well, in our view, and I'm sure there are others who attended the meeting, I'm sure they will be best placed to answer your question, but there was no incident.
Do you think the NDC is exaggerating about this?
Well, let's leave it to the good people of Ghana to judge that. Thank you.
Jean Mensa speaking to some reporters in Parliament earlier today. Well, she has also been defending the EC's decision to limit the upcoming voter registration exercise to district EC offices, and she's insisting it is within their mandate.
The law mandates the Commission to prepare for the conduct of such registration exercises as it deems fit. And at this present time, the Commission is of the view that, the exercises should be held in the district offices. Of course, if you are just the recent past, when we were conducting the referendum, the registration was held in the district offices and there were no complaints. I haven't seen a Ghanaian coming to complain yet that the offices are far off. And
this time there are complaints. The NDC in a statement has raised questions about this, yes, and wondered if you want to disenfranchise a lot of ordinary.
I do not believe so at all. Of course, the offices are open for the continuous registration for those who have lost their cards, whose cards have been defaced and so on. And day in, day out, our IGFs, our internally generated funds, our accounts are fat because we have people going on a daily basis to replace their lost cards and so on. And we haven't had complaints that, the district offices are too far. The district offices are not that far. I mean, if you look at it, of course, in some areas, and I think we have mentioned that the Commission is doing its own assessment, and where you find that the district office is very far off from, the people would provide the necessary transportation. So those are being done.
So that is the Electoral Commission chairperson, Jean Mensa, there speaking earlier to correspondent in Parliament. Well, our correspondent, Joseph Gakpo, was there as well. He joins me right now so we can have a quick conversation, because after this we'll also be talking and listening to the audio that is purported to have been leaked from the IPAC meeting. The EC boss has also been speaking about it. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Gifty.
So what else has she been saying? So essentially she dismisses the creation of 25 new constituencies. And then, go ahead, Joseph.
So this is an allegation that first started with the Deputy Minority Whip in Parliament, who claims that in the 25 constituencies, 17 of them will be in the Ashanti region, including the splitting of the Aswante constituency into two. And in his view, it's an attempt for the NPP going into the 2020 election.
Joseph, you'll have to reposition, because I'm having a hard time hearing you. Reposition and let's try this again. Could you go over that?
Okay. If you can hear me,
yeah.
The allegation started with a claim by the Deputy Minority Whip in Parliament, Ibrahim Ahmed, who claimed that there's a plan to create 25 new constituencies, out of which 17 of them will be based in the Ashanti region, which is the NDP stronghold. And this is to create an unfair advantage for the NPP, as in the NPP stronghold, going into the 2020 elections. And he even went on to say the Aswante constituency is one of the constituencies that will be split, purposely to create a situation where the NPP will be able to gain a seat in that area. But Jean Mensa says that is not the case. He describes the claim as completely false, but he goes on to make the point that the creation of new constituencies is within their mandate as the Electoral Commission, and he admits that a conversation has started around what should be done with the number of constituencies going into the 2020 elections. But he was quick to add that this is something that is not exactly on their plate currently. Their focus now is on opening a lot more offices at the district level, and additionally, they have a district level election coming up in the next few months that they are focusing attention on. It after that if there is any conversation around the creation of new constituencies, they will then bring that to the table for proper discussion. But to say it's within their mandate, they've actually spoken about that, but it's not something that they are doing right now until they are done with the district level election.
With the district level registration, that's something that I want to talk to you about as well, Joseph, but we want to fix this sound issue that we're having at the moment. Let's take a very quick turnaround and take a listen to that video, that audio that we're getting from a media house here in the city. We understand that it's a leaked audio from the conversation from the IPAC meeting that was recently held between the Electoral Commission and the other stakeholders. Well, do listen. We'll be talking to Joseph about it as well, because the EC boss has also been responding to that.
The comments on the progress report, the updates given by the chair.
Yes, I have a comment, a couple of comments. I want to find out. We have expressed our position that we are totally against any registration that will be confined to district offices of the Commission. And we still stand by that position. Because we believe that it is not in accord with even the Electoral Commission's own laws. But I want to find out whether the Commission went to Parliament to seek appropriation for the refurbishment of the biometric kits, and was that appropriation approved both in 2018 and in the current year? And if it was approved, on what basis did the Commission justify that appropriation, only to turn around to say that spending that money on the equipment will be waste of resources?
I'm not sure that the Commission owes this response to the political parties. I think the Commission has been dealing with Parliament, and we've gone in there to explain our budget, and we've explained to them the decisions we have taken, why we believe that the initial, presentation made has been varied, and I believe that Parliament has accepted it. I'm not sure that we owe this response to the political parties. What I think that we want to make clear is that when the Commission, took office, there was a proposal before the Commission to refurbish the existing biometric system. And by refurbishing, I mean to refurbish the existing kits that we have and the current data center. We all agree that the current technology only captures the fingerprints, and it has not been helpful to eliminate the manual verification. And I see the accusations coming particularly from the NDC. When we had the just ended referendum, there was a high incidence of manual verification, and there was some accusation that it leads to corruption, and we all want to eliminate that. In the view of the biometric consultants, refurbishing just the BVDs alone, vis-a-vis new kits, would cost you $20 million more. And therefore, nothing stopped the Commission from exploring, the new technology. Look at technology. The new technology is able to give you facial recognition and capture fingerprints as well. It's accurate, it's user-friendly. If you compare that to what we have, it's obsolete, very difficult to use, and it's not sharp. And that is the reason why the Commission was on the view that why spend money, $20 million more, to refurbish kits when you old kits, obsolete kits, huge kits. You look at the kits and it's like a suitcase going to marry somebody at an engagement. And we are prepared. I mean, these are discussions that we are just beginning, and we are prepared. You are going to be involved in all of that. But why spend money, buy with a sole vendor, And just with the DVDs, you're spending $20 million more when you could bring on board current modern technology that is sharp, that is easy to use, that is user-friendly, that will reduce to a large extent the manual verification. And therefore, that is what informed the Commission's decision not to procure go ahead to procure kits. I think that you have to understand us. The parties ought to understand us in the interest of this country. Going for electoral area registration means that we would have to bring on board additional kits. Yes, this is a meeting. This is a meeting. You can express your views thereafter. But I think that going for registration on the electoral area basis, and Mr. Asiedu Nketia, we gave you that respect when you were speaking, so we allow us to explain. You asked a question, and we are answering you. So please allow us. You are making their sides and obstructing the discussion.
I haven't said anything.
You were laughing.
So laughter interrupts.
No, but when you were talking, we didn't. It's
Please,
like you are ridiculing us.
I beg you. Those who are making the noise, I have kept quiet. I'm not part of what is happening. If you have a personal problem against me, you may bring it up.
We do not have.
But please.
We do not have a problem against you. As I am speaking, I see you laughing.
So laughter and disruption, which in my view. So if I'm smiling, it means I cannot smile.
You are laughing.
So I cannot laugh. So I cannot laugh.
Both. I think that we gave you the respect. If you start talking, start laughing.
Respect is end. If you put yourself in a respectable position, people will respect you.
Yes, and so
that's the advice I want. That's the advice I want. But I know the issue. Look, the question I asked, I don't think that it solicited all the information you are bringing up. I'm asking you a simple question, and you go on delivering thesis.
Let us deliver a thesis. I think it's for the right good people of this country.
I'm sure you will end at some point for me to continue.
Yes,
so you proceed.
Yes, we will proceed.
So this is how that conversation ended, from Mr. Asiedu Nketia's question to the answer by the EC board, EC chairperson, and that altercation at the end of it. The EC boss has been speaking to it, and this basically goes down to the limited registration. Joseph, you're still there with me? So let's speak to the substantive matter before we get to her response to whether or not there was a clash at the IPAC meeting. First of all, regarding the limited registration, the EC is bent on going forward with it.
That's what she says. She indicates that previously there's been limited registration exercises that did not exactly involve setting up centers across the country as it happens during elections. And she made reference to the limited registration exercise that happened ahead of the referendum in the areas where there was a referendum. And she says that unlike on previous occasions, it was limited to the district offices of the Electoral Commission. And she went on to make the point that for some time now, you would recall that there's been a situation where the EC undertakes what they call the continuous registration, where people can walk into their offices, pay 5 cedis or so, and as a result of that, they're able to get hold of their ID card. So she says that has reduced the pressure when it comes to limited registration. That,
hello, Joseph.
Where they should go the limited registration exercises in all the areas, but do it in district offices. So she says they are sticking to the plan, except that when they discover that there are areas where the offices are very, very away from specific polling centers or district offices, then they would consider setting up second polling centers. But they are going ahead with the plan as they have announced without decentralizing it as the NDC is asking for.
And has the minority in Parliament responded to this?
They made a point that they are looking forward to a clean electoral process without trouble, and that's what they would continue to push for as far as the upcoming elections are.
Well, let's talk about the audio that we just played, and it's coming from a radio station here in Accra, 3FM. It's supposed to be a leaked audio from the IPAC, recently held IPAC meeting, after which Mr. Asiedu Nketia himself granted us here at JoyNews an exclusive interview with some details. Now we're hearing exactly what is supposed to have happened there. The EC chairperson responded to that as well. What did she say?
Her response was very simple, that as far as she is concerned, there weren't heated exchanges, and she says there were others in the room when the incident happened to confirm that nothing went out of proportion in the conversation, as had been reported earlier that there were heated exchanges. There's nothing like that happened.
Did she listen to the audio?
It was put there that there have been reports that there were heated exchanges at the IPAC meeting, and she was, not happy with what happened, then raised her voice at the NDC executives and all. And her simple response was that nothing of that sort happened that went out of court.
Right. Well, let's get back to Parliament now. What else happened in the House today?
So today, the expectations were huge that the House would be dealing with urgent businesses, including possibly the vigilantism bill. But now the indication is that it's actually not one of the items that the House will be dealing with as far as this particular session is concerned. And let me just run you through specifically some of the items that the House intends to deal with, even though they've taken the decision not to deal with the vigilantism bill. There is the companies bill. Now we are being told that an amendment is being sought to the companies bill in terms of how businesses are registered and all. And there is a grant to the tune of $500 million that the country stands to gain if that particular bill comes into effect by the end of April. That's in just like 2 or 3 days. So there was a necessity for the MPs to really come and deal with it, which is why they are back. And as I speak to you, the House is considering that particular bill. There is also the tax waiver for the Sino Hydro project, something to the tune of $69 million. In fact, an earlier document was laid that pegged the figure of tax waivers to the tune of $80 million. But earlier today, the finance minister came to withdraw that document and laid a fresh one which will peg the figure of tax waivers at $69 million. The House will be dealing with that before they go. Also, the government is looking for $220 million, from a firm in South Africa to deal with challenges in the energy sector, and they are considering this also as urgent business. And finally, the House would want to do an amendment to a contract on oil exploration in the South Deep Tunnel contract area, which exists between GNPC and a production company, AJM Petroleum.
Okay.
And so these are the businesses that the House, and particularly the majority leader, indicates are urgent businesses that need to be dealt with, even though they've decided that they will give the vigilante bill a lot more time. And so the discussions have begun on that, and they hope to deal with some of those items before the House goes on break again this Friday.
But the minority is not necessarily happy about being recalled, not to discuss the vigilantism and other related offences bill, even though it was part of the initial agenda.
Exactly the case. The minority leader, Harry Aditi, made the point on the floor that for them, that was the single item agenda that should have been dealt with. And so, in the absence of that, they don't consider anything else urgent enough. And I've been speaking to the minority chief whip, Muntakamu Barak, who makes the point that, speaking of the fact that MPs have to be recalled, money would be sunk in terms of them coming back. We would see a situation of them losing contact hours with their constituents. These things that all the items that have been listed are things that could have been dealt with before the House went on its break. And so they maintain their position that this emergency recall is not exactly necessary, and that there is no urgent business to be dealt with, although they will sit through and go through the discussions as government has demanded.
Thank you very much, Joseph Apuku Gakpo, for bringing us up to speed on what's happening in Parliament. Well, we'll wrap up what's happening in Parliament with the Majority Leader Jean Mensa defense that the decision to recall the House for an emergency sitting, despite protests from the minority, still stands. Now, the scheduled emergency recall, as you just heard Gakpo say, was to deal with the vigilantism bill, but now that that particular bill is off the agenda. Other businesses, including the tax waiver, as he said, Joseph has also said, are being considered. A tax waiver for one district, one factory agreement for $220 million to deal with challenges in the energy sector have all been introduced. While the minority leader, as Joseph said, is not convinced that the businesses are urgent.
I related not only to the land have said to us that there are other matters in the pipeline that we may have to deal with. As we speak now, Speaker, there are two roles of members of parliament and how the performance of other functions in the constituencies affect our very presence and our survival as members of parliament. And therefore, be as it may, I cannot question your authority, but if I were to quote you, on that fateful day, your recall was premised on vigilantism bill on 29. That was your definite directive. Today, we will do business for government, but government must know that this house is not an extension of the executive. My survival in Kamala's house is as important as Honorable Professor Jamba's survival in Nigeria. And visitation is important. Mr. Speaker, let me now comment on just paragraph 4 on two issues, even though I agree with my colleague. Page 2. When you read presentation of statements in respect of report of Finance Committee on waiver of import duties, we are seeing definite numbers because there are numbers to wait. Then you say B, 1B, 1F, no figure, no number, no conflict, blank check. We will not support that. Just look at the difference between 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. And the Speaker Hydro, important intervention. Even though we are now seeing rule of law relegated to $2 billion. We requested for value for money as condition president in passage. We will need.
So that's the minority leader there. The majority leader, Jean Mensa, disagrees.
I related not only to the land have said to us that there are other matters in the pipeline that we may have to deal with. As we speak now, Speaker, there are two very important agreements which are very serious repercussions for the economy. And so when we adjourn, I have to take the Winning Committee to Fulvia to deal with these matters in order for us to be able to bring finality to those two, the bill, the company's bill, and the other agreements. Speaker, they bear considerable yield for this country. And by the close of tomorrow, we need to have dealt with those two matters. It is the reason why we have to meet today and bring finality to those matters between today and tomorrow. By the close of April, we should finish with those matters as a nation. But I agree with his observation that we need also to be concerned with our survival. What we need to concentrate on, Mr. Speaker, is to implore the various political parties to do serious introspection. And I've always alluded to that. What practice that we have foisted on ourselves is planting our own democracy. Please.
Majority Leader of Jean Mensa.